So welcome to my teaching series, and in this series I'll be continuing from where I stopped in the last video, which is the 11th topic in the JAMB syllabus. So today I'll be looking at the 12th topic in the biology syllabus for JAMB exam, and that is reproduction. But I'm not going to go through all the notes. By feedback from most of my listeners who are preparing for the exam, they would rather I consider more questions and answers. So I would spend most of the time in this video taking questions and answers. But this teaching is based on the book titled Explicit Biology, a revision course for JAMB exam. And that book is written by me and it's available in most bookshops. You can find yourself a copy. So, under this topic, we are expected to understand asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction, sexual reproduction in flowering plants, reproduction in mammals, and then courtship behavior. Look at this overview. If you look at this flow chart here, it gives a very simple overview of what reproduction is and how it's divided. So you have here asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms that could be grouped into fission and budding. And you could also group fission into binary fission, that's division into two, or multiple fission. Of course, binary fission could be further divided into simple, transverse, and longitudinal, but I think that is not in the scope of the syllabus. Also, in multicellular organisms, asexual reproduction could be fragmentation, could be regeneration, could be vegetative propagation, and it could also be spore formation. For sexual reproduction, of course, that is an advanced form of reproduction, and that happens both in plant and animals. The mechanism is similar. You have in plants where the pollen grain fertilizes the ovules. The pollen grains are the male reproductive cells from the androecium, fertilizing the ovules from in the female, referred to as the gynoecium. While in animals, you have the sperm fertilizing the ova. The sperm is from the testes and the ova is from the ovaries. So this flowchart gives a simple overview of the forms of reproduction that is required in the syllabus. However, the syllabus also wants you to, this is a copy of the JAMB syllabus. The syllabus also wants you to be able to explain sexual reproduction in flowering plant. You should be able to define the different floral parts and of plant and their functions, pollination and fertilization, product of sexual reproduction, and also reproduction in mammals. This is what the syllabus expects of you: the structure and function of male and female reproductive organs, and also fertilization and development in animals, and of course in plants. All right. So without further ado, I would move to this section of the book, which deals with different questions drawn from the JAMB syllabus from 1978 till recent years. And the very first question here is dealing with asexual reproduction and fission and budding, which are forms of asexual reproduction. So this very first question says, Spirogyra reproduces vegetatively by what process or by what means? Okay, so if you look through the options, you have spore formation, you have fragmentation, you have multiple fission, you have budding, and you have binary fission. Of course, Spirogyra reproduces asexually, which is vegetatively, by the process of fragmentation. So this is what happens. Fragment of mature Spirogyra breaks off to live an independent life. So the right answer to this question is B. The next question says, exponential increase in the population of an organism is a characteristic feature of A, binary fission, B, sexual reproduction, C, budding, D, vegetative propagation. Of course, the right answer here is binary fission, option A. What's the reason? Exponential increase in population is common in microorganisms that reproduce by binary fission. Because in binary fission, this is what happens. You have one organism producing two, and then each of the two organisms also produce 2, and you have 4. So, and that continues to exponentially increase. From 4, you could get 16, from 16 to 32, and that gives that exponential increase. Question number 3. During binary fission in lower organisms, the nucleus is known to undergo what process? So you have mitosis, you have meiosis, you have fragmentation, and you have mutation. So question number 3. The nucleus during binary fission divides by mitosis into 2. So the right answer to this is option A. Okay, and of course you know that meiosis, which is this B, is a sexual division. So it has nothing to do with asexual division. Question number 4. What type of reproduction is common to both hydra and yeast? Hydra and yeast. So remember, yeast undergoes budding. The same thing with hydra. So budding is a form of asexual reproduction that is common to both hydra and yeast. So what you have in the bud is an outgrowth of the parent organism that develops into a new organism. So you have option B. The next question says, asexual reproduction does not occur in which of these organisms? So you look through the entire section and then choose which of the answer appropriately fits. Well, this is one question that is a bit tricky, I must say. So, for example, if you have mucus and rhizopus, they undergo asexual reproduction by spore formation. And the question says, asexual reproduction does not occur in which of them? So now, because mucus undergoes asexual reproduction here, A is out. Now, the next one would be option B. Okay, now for option B, you have penicillium, you have paramecium, you have amoeba. But amoeba and paramecium can also undergo asexual reproduction by binary fission. All right, so because amoeba and paramecium can undergo binary fission, this option is not completely correct. If you look at C, you have mucor once again here and rhizopus. If you look at option D, you have amoeba here again. Remember, it was nullified here because they can undergo binary fission. And here, option E, you have rhizopus again. And of course, ascaris undergo sexual reproduction. But the problem with this question is that none of the options contain group that exclusively reproduce sexually, which is the implication of the question. The question implies that the entire group in the option should be sexual reproduction. But in all of these options, you have one or two organism that is not reproducing exclusively by sexual means. So this is one very rare moment where the questions will have none of the options to be correct. So, but this might be debatable, but then there are no clear answers in this. None of the option is right by the implication of the question. Okay, question number 6. Which of these plant groups are normally propagated by asexual means? So you have banana, yam, pineapple, cassava. You have option B, yam, cassava, rubber, banana. You have option C. You have yam, cassava, orange, and banana. You have banana, cashew, coffee, and pineapple. What is the most appropriate answer here is option A, because banana, yam, pineapple, and cassava are normally propagated asexually, right? And banana uses the sucker, pineapple uses the offset, and for the yam you can use the stem tuber, and for cassava you can also propagate it by stem cutting. So this answer here would be option A. Of course, the next question here, it says plantain reproduce asexually by the use of the sucker. That is option A. Next set of questions will be questions that borders on vegetative propagation. Question number 8. Vegetative propagation is described as asexual reproduction because, yes, in asexual reproduction, there is no exchange of genetic material. Therefore, there is no variation among the offspring. Therefore, D would be the right option. Underground stems which grow horizontally through the soils are referred to as, question number 9. Underground stems are referred to as rhizome. Question 10. Irish potato is an example of what? It's a stem tuber. Option E. 11. The corm differs from bulb in that um, a corm is a short globular underground stem swollen with food and have lateral buds along the nodes. An example of that is the cocoyam. So what you have is that the stem food is stored in the stem in the case of the corm. All right. So it has the leaves separately. It has the stem which stores the food, and it has the leaves. Elephant grass is propagated vegetatively by what means? By the stolons. I told you that before. Those are horizontal stem. An onion bulb is a bulb because of what? What is the reason? It has a reduced stem and thick fleshy leaves. So in the case of the bulb, food is stored in the leaves, while in the case of the corm, food is stored in the stem. So understand the difference. The right answer here is P. Question 14. Certain plants known as runners can easily be propagated. This is due to the fact that D. Runners can produce adventitious roots quite easily at their nodes. So runners are horizontal stems which creeps on the ground, producing roots and area shoots. Wherever they touch the ground, they produce roots. So when the internode dies out, the shoot becomes independent plant and continues to grow on its own. That's a good example. I mean, the sweet potato is a good example. So you have one node here, and you have an internode that connects to another point. Wherever it touches the ground here, it starts to grow again, and you have another internode here connecting to another one that touches the ground, start to grow. All of these, when this internode cuts off, each of these will become an independent plant, and each of them becomes an independent plant. What number are we now? Um, Question number 15. Which of these is propagated by means of suckers? Let us find the plantain. All right, we said banana and plantain are propagated by means of suckers. So the right answer here is E. How is the cassava plant propagated? How is the cassava plant? Of course, cassava is propagated by the stem. So by means of cuttings, that would be D, stem cutting. Question number 17. Which of these plants can be propagated by the leaves? Which of them can be propagated by the leaves? Okay, the right answer here is the Bryophyllum pinnatum. I can quickly show you. If you look at the book Explicit Biology on page 102, you will find the Bryophyllum leaf that has adventitious roots. So the right answer here is E. Question 18. Which of these is not an advantage of vegetative propagation? Which of these is not an advantage of vegetative propagation? Um, the offsprings in vegetative propagation are better adapted to their environment of origin, but may not survive in changing environment condition due to lack of variation. So the right answer to that question is option D. All right, so the right answer to that is option D. So the new plant cannot survive in unsuitable condition. That's what this option read actually. So because they're not, which of this is not an advantage of vegetative reproduction? The new plant are not dependent on pollination and other non-setting devices. The plant grow bigger than they would otherwise. The development are usually rapid. All these are advantages, right? A to C is advantage. The large areas can be covered in relatively short time. E is an advantage. But the new plant cannot survive in unsuitable condition. Sorry, this is unsuitable. So the right answer to that is D. Now we're progressing to look at artificial propagation. So I'll consider the first three questions, and then that will be the end of the part one of this topic 12. All right. So I would like to get your feedback. I could go on and on to consider the entire questions, but I just want to have a break and then okay, I think we'll continue with the questions. Question number 19. Artificial vegetative propagation. Question number 19. In vegetative propagation, which of the following requires part of another plant to develop? Which of the following requires part of another plant to develop? You have the scion, the bulb, the rhizome, the sulca. If you look at all of these B, C, D, they are from the same plant. But when you talk about the scion, scion is part of another plant. This is what you get when you're grafting a plant, one plant to another. For example, you have this stalk and you bring another plant to graft onto this. This is where the concept of scion comes in. So in vegetative propagation, which of the following requires part of another plant to develop? A scion is a detached living portion of a plant that is joined to the stalk in grafting. All right. So it needs the stalk to survive. This is the scion coming to the stalk, and it needs the stalk to survive. In grafting, the desired tree is grafted to an old established part. The old established part is known as the stalk. Option E. Question 21. What do you understand by the scion? Okay, I mentioned that before. It is a plant part, it is the term used in propagation, it is needed, it is the tree that is needed that is grafted onto the stalk. All right. So another option says it is the desired plant, while another option says none of the above. So of course, the desired plant is our scion, and that is the D. So, but you need the stalk, which is already an established plant, to provide that support for this desired plant. So, but when it gets that support, then it begins to grow on its own. So usually you can use this method in propagation of rubber. I'm aware they use that for propagation of rubber. They also use this for propagation of some other plant like oranges. Sexual reproduction. Now we move on to question number 22. Which of the following is true of the process of conjugation in paramecium? So you have micronucleus disintegrate, each of X conjugate divide only once, macronucleus undergoes division, each micronucleus divide twice. So the right answer to this question is option D. So each micronucleus divide mitotically into 2 and later they divide again into 4. So that is what happens during conjugation in paramecium. You can look that up in the book. Question 23. The stage of mitosis that is associated with the formation of spindle fiber. Spindle fiber are formed during metaphase. So during the process of cell division, you have interphase, which is the rest phase. You have the prophase, you have the metaphase, you have the anaphase, and you have the telophase, EatMat. All right, so it's in the metaphase stage that you have the formation of spindle fiber, and that is option B. The development of young ones from unfertilized egg is known as metamorphosis, no, oviparity, viviparity, parthenogenesis. Of course, in the book, we have defined all of these terms, and then the answer to this question is parthenogenesis, which is a form of asexual reproduction, where growth and development of embryos occur without fertilization. 25. Which of the following process result in gamete formation? Which of the process result in gamete formation? Of course, I mentioned this again, that this is meiosis, because this happens. Meiosis is a cell division that only takes place in reproductive cells, which are the gametes. So this happens in somatic cells, the non-reproductive cells. Mitosis takes place. I mean, what happens in non-reproductive cells is mitosis. 26. Sexual reproduction in Spirogyra. During sexual reproduction in Spirogyra, the protoplasm that moves during conjugation is referred to as A. Gametophyte, zygospore, male gamete or female gamete. So when two spirogyra come together in the process of conjugation, one of them will be assume the role of the positive or the male, while the other will assume the role of the negative or the female. And the one that is the male is where the protoplast will move from into the female, and they form this H-shaped structure that allows for the mixing of their cytoplasmic content. Okay, so the right answer to that will be the male gamete. The stage of meiosis at which chiasmata occur is known as, so the chiasmata is thought to be the point where two homologous non-sister chromatids exchange genetic material during chromosomal crossing over. And chromosomal crossing over occurs, of course, in meiosis, and it is visible in the prophase 1. So you have the right answer here, prophase 1. You can go back to the book and find the description of each of these stages of mitosis and meiosis. In meiosis, the separation of daughter chromatid occur at what phase? Question 28. So separation occurs in anaphase 2. I won't waste time on that. Go back to the book and find the description. The process, so if I just want to give a comment on that quickly, during anaphase 2, centromeric division occurs and the sister chromatids are separated. So they start to migrate towards the opposite pole. So question 29, the process by which a zygote divides repeatedly to produce many cells is known as cleavage. So cleavage is that period of cell proliferation which converts unicellular zygote into multicellular embryo, and it is a form of mitotic division. Question number 30, homologous pair of chromosomes separate at what point? Homologous pair of chromosomes separate during meiosis. So, and that is during the anaphase 1 of meiosis. So that you have a diploid chromosome can then be halved into a haploid chromosome in order to restore the genetic content of the zygote to that of the parent. So you have here, you have 2n changing into n, and this is the separation of homologous pair. At what phase of mitosis are the chromosomes drawn to the middle? So that is at the metaphase, option E. Okay, I think this is okay. This is not the final part. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Of course, the syllabus expects you to know the part of flower and their function. So all the questions here will be dealing with that. For pollination and fruit formation, the essential parts of the flower should be, what are the essential parts of the flower for pollination to occur? So you have the corolla, you have the ovary, ovules, pistil, receptacle. The right answer to this question, this you understand if you take a look at the diagram of a flower in plant. So what you have is that you have the pistil, which is the gynoecium, the female part, is made up of an ovary, one or more styles, and then one or more stigmas. I wish I could show you a diagram quickly. This is what the diagram looks like. Okay, so you have the stigma, you have the ovary, you have the styles. Where are they? Oh, this is not shown here. And you have the flower. I mean the petals. So all of this is what makes up the pistil, and that is the female part of the plant. Okay, so let's go back to the question now. For pollination and fruit formation, The essential part of the flower should be the pistil, which is the female part. And the pistil contains the ovary, one or more styles, and one or more stigmas. Question 33. Petals. Okay, question 33. The main function of the petal of a flower is to attract pollination agent, is to protect the flower while still in the bud, is to serve as landing stage for insects, is to protect the inner part from desiccation. Okay, so the right answer to that is to attract pollination agent because of the flowery, the shiny, the bright colors of these petals. 34. The calyx in the flower serves as. What's the function of the calyx? Of course, the calyx are usually the green parts of the flower. If you go back to that diagram, do we have the calyx in this picture? Usually the calyx will be somewhere here. The calyx will be somewhere around here. All right. Unfortunately, it's not in this image. So, but the calyx is green. If you look at the image of the calyx, it's green in coloration. As a result of that, it protects the plant and also carry out the function of photosynthesis. Question 35. A flower with all its carpels or ovaries fused together is described as A. Syncarpous, apocarpous, monocarpous, polycarpous. This is one question we can. There are times where it's important to guess the answer even if you don't know from the name. So when you see something like this, it's a question you should be able to guess. Syncarpous would tell you that this is something joining together from the word synthesis. So when you have a monocarpous flower, they are composed of one carpel. That's a simple pistil. So the term apocarpous or syncarpous will now be used to describe compound pistil, one or more carpels. However, for apocarpous flower, they contain two or more distinct carpels. Whereas in the syncarpous flowers, they have two or more carpels that are fused together. So that's the difference between the syncarpous and the apocarpous. 36. The two walls in the flower that are directly related to production of gametes are what? Of course, you have the androecium, which is the pollen grain, and the gynoecium, which is the ovule. That's option B. What is an inflorescence? This is a direct question. An inflorescence may be defined as cluster of flowers or flowering arising from the main stem axis or the peduncle. So which of these options best describe that? What I just defined. B. Cluster of flowers. B. So question 38. In some flowers, the petals are exactly alike and are equally spaced. Such flowers are said to be what? Oh well. You have zygomorphic, gamopetalous, polypetalous, actinomorphic, petaloids. Well, the right answer to this question would be D, actinomorphic. So actinomorphic are flowers that are radially symmetrical in that they are able to be dissected into similar halves in more than one vertical plane. You remember the concept of radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. So for actinomorphic flowers, they are radially symmetrical. Okay, so in the case of zygomorphic, those are flowers that are bilaterally symmetrical. So petals that are exactly alike and are equally spaced are actinomorphic. All right. The next question, 39. The condition in which male and female part of the flower mature in different times is known as dichogamy. Dichogamy is having pistil and stamen that matures at different times, thereby promoting cross-pollination rather than self-pollination. So when you have homogamy, homogamy is the maturation of pistil and stamen of a flower at the same time. And what does that do? Why dichogamy promotes cross-pollination, homogamy promotes self-pollination. A flower showing radial symmetry is said to be, we mentioned that before, actinomorphic. An example of dioecious plant. Question 41. Dioecious plant is when you have the male plant separate and you have the female plant separate. And pawpaw is a good example. So you have the male pawpaw and you have the female pawpaw. Be sure which of them you have planted in your compound. So if it's the male pawpaw, it will not produce anything. It's just going to have flowers. You're not going to have pawpaw fruits. Okay. All right. We are moving on to look at pollination. Question 42. I will just scan through this one quickly. There are many ways in which plants prevent self-pollination. One of the way is that the pistil of the flower ripen first. This is known as, we mentioned that before, right? Question 42. This is known as dichogamy, right? Question 42 will be C. We already explained what that means. Question 43. If a flowering plant is protandrous, then it must be unisexual. B. It has an undeveloped androecium. It has no androecium. Must be pollinated. Can prevent self-pollination. Wow. So, question 43, the answer is E. So, if a plant is protandrous, then of course it cannot self-pollinate because it simply means that it has just one, it exists as one, is as a male, right? Or as a female. So when you have such condition, it will always cross-pollinate. So the right answer is to prevent self-pollination. 44, wind-pollinated flowers usually have, I take the option D, long styles. Wind-pollinated flowers have long styles so that the stigma can project from the flowering, can project from the flowers catching pollen grains flowing in the air. All right. So that is why they have long styles. 45. Which of this is not true of wind-pollinated flowers? Of course, the flowers are inconspicuous. Yes, that's true. Vast quantities of pollen grains are released. That's true. The stigmas of the flowers are sticky. No, that's not true. The anthers are pendulously attached in the flowers, in the flower head. The pollen grains are smooth. Oh well, the right answer to this question would be C. They do not have sticky grains or stamen. So it says the stigma of the flowers are sticky. No. So the right answer will be C. Okay, question number 46. The offspring resulting from cross-pollination usually exhibit, yes, cross-pollination, they have variable characteristics. So cross-pollination allows variation because chances are that you're having one species fertilizing another species closely related. So unlike when you have self-pollination, you don't have that diversity or variation. So the right answer to this question would be A, question 46. Question 47. Insect visit flowers in order to, oh yeah, this is one question we debated many years ago. Insects are visiting flowers in order to feed on the nectars because plants that are pollinated by insects, they have sweet nectars, right? It's in the process of going to feed that they pollinate the plant. Pollination happens by accident using this insect because they're not going to pollinate. They don't know what they're doing. So the right answer is they're going there to feed on the nectars, but pollination happens after that process, unknown to the insects. Make sense? Okay. Question 48. For pollen to be released in crotalaria, the insect must. Okay, you need to understand the structure of the crotalaria, what it looks like. So otherwise, this question would not make sense to you at all. I want to see if I have the diagram of the crotalaria anywhere. Okay, not here. Okay, so question 48 says for pollen to be released in crotalaria, the insect must depress the. Okay, so if you look at the structure of the crotalaria in textbooks, the crotalaria is protandrous. So when a bee alights on the wing petals, sorry, its body weight usually pushes down the wing petals and the queue. There's a part of it called queue, K-W-E-L. So the pollen grain in the queue is pushed out into the undersurface of the bee by the rounded anther. So what I'm saying in essence is you have this part called the queue, which must be depressed first by the bees, and then that releases the pollen to the undersurface of the bee. All right, we have come to another segment, which is fertilization. What is the first noticeable change in the flower after fertilization? Wow. So after fertilization, the flower dries, its petals drop, the top of the pistils falls off, and the ovary swells as the seed form inside it. After the ovules are fertilized, the ovary becomes the plant fruit. Remember, it's this flower that becomes the fruit. Any plant that produces fruit will begin with as a flower, right? So those are the things that happen generally in the formation of the fruit. But the question says the first noticeable one, and that is that the petal will fall off the plant. Option B. If a fruit bears above its withered sepals, stamens, and the stigma, the ovary is. So you must understand the concept of um, epigyne, hypogyne. What's the other one? I think those are the two concepts now, where you have the flowers with inferior ovaries or flowers with superior ovaries. Okay, so if a plant bears, in this description here, question number 50, if a plant bears its withered sepals, stamens, and the stigma above the ovary, right? All of these are above the ovaries. Then how do you describe such plant? All right. So in this case, this ovary is below all of this, and that is such ovary are described as epigyne or epigynous ovary. You also have what is called the hypogynous. Now, in that case, in hypogynous ovary, the flower, the ovaries are, I mean, the flower with superior ovaries. So the ovaries are above, while all of these structures, the stamen, the stigma, they are below. The ovary is above, and that is called the hypogynous ovary or hypogynous flower. So the right answer here is epigynous when the ovary is inferior. All these other structures are above, and in some other cases you have the ovary is above and other structures are below, and that is hypogynous. All right, you'll find that in the book. Question 51. We should be winding down now. Question 51 says double fertilization in higher plant is significant because it ensures two things, right? So double fertilization ensures the formation of fertile embryo and endosperm. So in double fertilization, the formation of fertile embryo, which is the diploid, and endosperm, which is the triploid. So the diploid is the male gamete fusing with the egg cell. Now, the triploid is when you have the male gamete with the definitive nucleus. So that's what double fertilization is about. Option B. Fruits which develop without fertilization are described as, we mentioned that earlier in question 24, parthenocarpus or parthenogenesis. The answer is B. How many nuclei are found in the pollen tube during fertilization? There are 3 nuclei in the pollen tube during fertilization. The answer here is B. During fertilization, there are 3 nuclei in the pollen tube. So you have a tube nucleus. That's one nucleus. And you have 2 male nuclei from the generative nucleus. So in total, you have 3 nuclei found in the pollen tube during fertilization. Now look at this diagram. This is the movement of the pollen grain during fertilization. Now you are expected to label each and every part of this diagram. So this one, number 1 is integuments. B, Roman figure 2 is the polar nuclei. Roman figure 3 is the egg nucleus. Roman figure 4 is the 2 synergids. You have 2 of them here. Roman figure 5 is called the micropyle. So it is the micropyle or the micropyle that allows the passage of pollen tube and pollen nucleus. All right, so the question 54 reads, the function of the part labeled 5 is the passage of pollen tube and pollen nucleus, which is option A. The micropyle allows the passage of pollen tube and pollen nucleus. The female gamete is represented by, the female gamete is C, the part labeled 3. Otherwise, it's called the egg nucleus. So, to wrap up, okay, not wrapping up yet. We have 2 more sections to complete this. Okay, reproduction, product of sexual reproduction. Question 56. What are simple fruits? Question 56. A simple fruit or simple fruit are produced from single flowers in which the pistil is made up of 1 carpel and several fused carpel. So you have option A, formed from the gynoecium, having only a single ovary. What are indehiscent plants? These are non-splitting fruits. You also have what you call the splitting fruit or the dehiscent. So 57 is D. They do not open when they're ripe. Which of these has a type of fruit? Which of these has a type of fruit known as the caryopsis? Caryopsis has the pericarp and the seed coat being fused together. And a good example is the grain of cereal. For example, maize, guinea corn, millet, and grasses. Those are caryopsis. So maize is a good example. What is the name of the dry fruit which split open along both ventral and dorsal sutures? We mentioned that already. Question 59. The legume. Oh, we haven't mentioned that before. So the legume, they are formed from 1 carpel and they split along 2 sides, the dorsal and the ventral. Example of a legume is the crotalaria. We also have the capsule, we have the follicle. All of these terms, you should be able to define them. We also have the schizocarp. So what is a drupe? So in the drupe, you have the pericarp consists of 3 layers. You have the epicarp, which is the thin outer skin. You have the mesocarp, which is the middle fleshy and fibrous layer. And also you have the endocarp, which is the hard inner layer consisting of, enclosing the seed. So I've answered question 60 by that description, which is C. Which of these, question 61, which of these is a multiple or compound fruit? The pineapple is one. Why is it a compound fruit? They are produced from many flowers. The ovaries are fused together. What is understood by placentation in plant? Nice question. Placentation, as the name says, is the arrangement of ovules or seed in the ovary. Option B. Question 63. The parietal, so you must understand the different types of placentation now. You have the parietal placentation, you have the axial, you have, let me remember that now. There are quite a number of them, right? So you have the axial, you have the marginal, the parietal, yes. You should be able to explain. You should be able to give an example of different plants with their type of placentation. And you'll find that on page 109 of the book, Explicit Biology. Okay, so 63, in parietal placentation, what happens? The answer is D. They are arranged on the edge of the carpel of the ovary. Question 64. What type of placentation is shown here? What in this diagram, what type of placentation is here? Question 64. That is marginal placentation, where the ovary is arranged on just one line, one side of the. Okay, so it's just arranged on one axis. The ovus, sorry, is arranged on just one axis of the ovary. Question 65. An example of plant having placentation is shown, having the placentation shown. So in this diagram, what example, in other words, give me an example of plant with marginal placentation. All right, 65. Pride of Barbados is a good example. Question 66. The main grain is regarded as a fruit and not a seed because the maize grain is a fruit and not a seed. Because the tester and the fruit will fuse after fertilization. And that is option B. Question 67. Fruit formed from a single flower having several fruit carpels is called an aggregate fruit. Any fruit which can break into several parts and each of them containing one seed is known as a schizocarp. Question 69. The granite is really not a nut, right? It's not really a nut in the biological sense. Why? Granite is a legume. The pericarp is not hard and tough. So for a plant to qualify as a nut, the seed must be hard and tough. Granite is not. It's a legume. Okay. The nut, in nut they have tough, hard, and stony pericarp. A good example of a nut would be the cashew nut. Okay, so question number 70. What type of fruit is formed from a single flower having several fruit carpels? Again, that is an aggregate fruit. 71. The maize grain is a fruit and not a seed. Oh yes, we mentioned this before. A tree fruit is formed from fertilized ovary. Seed are formed from ovus. Okay, so the right answer to that would be B. All right, question 72. Pineapple fruit is described as number one. You should know that pineapple, first and foremost, is a multiple fruit because we have fusion of several ovaries. B, it's succulent, yes, and of course, it's indehiscent. It doesn't split when it's dried or when it's ripe. So the answer to this will be C. Question 73. Question 73. Flower shown above in this diagram. How do you describe it? Complete, regular, hermaphroditic with superior ovary. Incomplete, regular, staminate with superior ovary. C. Complete, regular, hermaphroditic with inferior ovary. D. Incomplete, irregular, pistillate with superior ovary. Well, the answer to this is C. Let's look at this flower. It's a complete flower. What makes it complete? It possesses all the floral parts, regular. It possesses all the floral parts. So you have the petals, you have the stamen that carries the you have the stamen, you have the ovary, right? The sepal. All this makes it complete flower because of the floral parts. Now it's regular. What does that mean? Actinomorphic. That means it can be cut into two halves from any plane. In other words, it's radially symmetrical. If you take a full picture of this flower, you can cut it into this plane. You can also cut it into this plane. All right. So something that is radially symmetrical is like this. You can cut it like this to have two equal halves. You can also cut it like this to have two equal halves. So complete, regular, and also hermaphroditic. That is, it possesses both the stamen and the carpel. So this is the stamen, the male part carrying the pollen grain, yes, and you have the female part carrying that leads to the ovary. And of course, all of these parts are above the plant. The ovary is below, so that makes this ovary an inferior ovary. Okay, so option C becomes our right answer. Question 74. Question 74. A Samara differs from Cypsela by having. Okay, so a Samara is actually an achene with the pericarp extended to form wings. An example of Samara is combretum. Okay, so I'm going to skip all this part because these questions are repeated now and move on to question 83. Look at this diagram. The structure labeled I originates from where? The structure labeled I originates from A. Liver, kidney, intestine, and stomach. This is coming from the kidney because the structure labeled I is the ureter, which is from the kidney. Roman figure 2 here would be the prostate gland. Roman figure 3 would be the vas deferens. And Roman figure 4 here would be the urethra. Question number 84. Birth control by vasectomy is achieved by severing the structure labeled. So if you want to do birth control by vasectomy, you are going to cut off. You're going to cut off the vas. Yeah, you're going to cut off the vas deferens. I think that's even where he got his name, vasectomy. So you're going to cut off this part, which is the Roman figure 3. If you cut this part off, because here the sperm is stored here. So when you cut off the vas deferens, sperm that is produced can't move up here anymore and be released during ejaculation. Okay, question 85. The reproductive system of a male mammal is made up of B. I'll just quickly rush through this answer. B. You have the testes, you have the prostate gland, you have the sperm duct, you have the vas deferens. This is what makes up the male reproductive system. 86. In the male reproductive system of a mammal, the sperm is stored where? So the sperm is stored in the epididymis, or epididymis, sorry. They store spermatozoa which are released during ejaculation. What is the function of the vesicula seminalis? They secrete a significant proportion of liquid that ultimately becomes the semen. So that is option E. Sorry, where's that? Yeah. So none of the above. The option is not stated here. Question 88. What is the function of the vas deferens? It helps to transport the sperm. The sperm is transferred from the vas deferens into the urethra, collecting secretions from the male accessory sex gland, such as the seminal vesicles, the prostate gland, and the bulbourethral gland, which forms bulk of the semen. So the answer to 88 will be B, transport only the spermatozoa. Question 89. The duct through which the urine and spermatozoa pass out in the male mammal is the urethra. 89. C. Question 90. What is the function of the bladder in mammals? Of course, the bladder stores urine, and when the bladder becomes full, you go and urinate. Is that clear? So the answer to that question 90, is that right? Okay. Question 90 is none of the above actually, because the bladder stores urine only. But all the options provided here are not correct. It says option B says urine and spermatozoa. That's not true. All right, so question 91. In mammalian males, the excretory and reproductive system share the urethra. You mentioned that this is a repeated question. It was repeated. Okay, not repeated. This is general. This question was first asked in 2003. The spermatozoa produced in the testis is often stored in a. We mentioned that. Where is it stored? Question 92. In the epididymis. If you take a look at this structure here, this is the female reproductive system. And question 93 says the structure labeled 3 is the what? First and foremost, the structure labeled 1 is the ovary. The structure labeled 2 is the uterus. The structure labeled 3 is the cervix. The structure labeled 4 is the vagina. And the structure labeled 5 is the vulva. So the structure labeled 3, the cervix, that's option B. Question 94. Fertilized ovum is implanted in the part labeled is implanted in the uterus, which is Roman figure 2. During ovulation, the egg is released from where? So fertilized egg is implanted. Okay. Question 95 now. So the ovum matures in the Graafian follicle, where it is released at ovulation into the uterus. It's transported to the uterus, and unless fertilization occurs, and out through the vagina. All right. So the answer to that question would be option C, the Graafian follicle. Question 96. The barrier between the maternal and the fetal blood is called the placenta. This is the blood placenta barrier. So fertilization usually takes place where? Question 97. It takes place in the upper part of the fallopian tube. So this is the ovary, this is the fallopian tube now. Fertilization takes place here, somewhere around here. And then it comes down to implant in the uterus. So the answer to that question will be question 97, D, the upper part of the oviduct. So the sex of a fetus is determined at what point? At the point of fertilization. Question 98. Question 99. Identical twins are formed when one ovum is fertilized by one sperm And then what happens? It undergoes division. So 1 over 1 sperm produces identical twins. We are going to stop at question number 100. What is ectopic pregnancy? An ectopic pregnancy is an abnormal pregnancy that occurs outside the womb. That's outside the uterus. So the baby cannot survive and often does not develop at all in this type of pregnancy. So, for example, when instead of the fertilized ovum being implanted in the uterus, is implanted in the fallopian tube. That's an ectopic pregnancy. So the right answer to the question 100 would be, for example, a zygote developing in the fallopian tube. That's an ectopic pregnancy. So on this note, we have come to the end of topic 12 of our biology JAMB syllabus. I hope this style of treating question and answer would be worth your time. Let me know in the comments if other topics should be treated this way, or we should go back to the old way of considering the note and then maybe 10 or 15 questions. But if you think this method is more useful for you, let me know in the comment. Then our subsequent lectures will be in this form of question and answers. We'll be going through questions and explaining their answers. This is quite tiring, but I think I enjoyed doing this. And thank you for staying throughout this section. Of course, you can share the video, invite your friends, subscribe, and then I'll see you in the next video. But most importantly, let me get your comment in the comment section to know if this style suits you. So thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.